Get ready for something crazy. Want to learn 2 hours of fun facts you didn't know so you'll never run out of things to talk about? Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's dive in. Ever notice that newborn babies cry without actual tears? They can scream their lungs out, but they won't shed a single drop until they are between 2 weeks and 3 months old. Their tear ducts simply aren't developed enough to produce real volume yet. They might sound like they are weeping inconsolably, but their eyes remain bone dry. Think solar panels love scorching heat? Think again. Extreme heat actually overexcites the electrons in the silicon, killing their efficiency. The perfect weather for a solar panel to hit 100% efficiency isn't the Sahara Desert. It is actually a freezing sunny day just like winter in the Swiss Alps. Sometimes ice is the secret to ultimate power. California is sitting on a ticking geological time bomb. The San Andreas Fault stretches for over 600 miles, and its southern section hasn't had a major rupture since 1857. Geologists calculate that the chance of a massive earthquake with a magnitude over 6.7 hitting within the next 30 years is over 99%. It is not a question of if the big one hits, but when. Those four-wheeled ATVs look incredibly safe, but that illusion is highly lethal. Clapping your hands is way more than just making noise. When you clap in unison with a crowd, your brain enters a state of tribal synchronization. It floods your system with oxytocin and endorphins, instantly connecting you acoustically to hundreds of people. On top of that, clapping stimulates key pressure points in your palms. Your hands are literally wired for happiness. A city bus weighs over 15 tons. If buses were programmed to pull over at every single empty stop, your commute would take 3 times as long, brake maintenance would cost millions, and city traffic would completely freeze. Those stop buttons aren't a luxury. In Istanbul, stray cats aren't just tolerated, they are treated like royalty. Hundreds of thousands of street cats have been first-class citizens since the Ottoman Empire, when they saved the city from plague-carrying rats. Today, local governments build them heated shelters, and they have an unwritten free pass to sleep inside local cafes and sacred mosques. In a crowded emergency, the biggest danger might actually be the crowd itself. This is the bystander effect, where everyone assumes someone else will take action. But if there's only one person around, they shoulder the entire responsibility and step up. That's why in a real crisis, you should never yell for help generally. Deep in Poland, there is a house built completely upside down. Its roof rests flat on the ground while the foundation points straight toward the sky. Stepping inside is so disorienting that visitors regularly walk out dizzy within minutes. It was built as a social critique of a topsy-turvy world, proving that flipping your perspective completely breaks your reality. There's a secret tropical island that storms completely ignore. Aruba sits in the far south of the Caribbean, just a few miles off the coast of Venezuela. This exact geographic sweet spot keeps it mathematically safe from the hurricane belt, while other islands face devastating tropical storms. Did you know that tiny dot over the lowercase I and J has a special name? In typography, it's called a tittle. Monks added it during the Middle Ages to separate the letter I from similar-looking letters like U or N in tightly packed, handwritten manuscripts. Your eggplant parmesan might actually be giving you a microscopic nicotine buzz. Botanically, eggplants are berries because they contain internal seeds, and they actually belong to the nightshade tobacco family. They contain trace amounts of nicotine, but don't worry about getting hooked. You'd have to eat 20 pounds of eggplant in a single sitting to feel any physical effect. Deep in the jungles of Madagascar lives a creature that sounds like a whale, but leaps like a superhero. This is the Indri, the world's largest lemur, known for throwing out eerie, high-pitched wails that sound exactly like a humpback whale singing in the treetops. The nicotine in tobacco wasn't made to hook humans, it was designed to kill. The tobacco plant produces nicotine as a natural defense system to paralyze the nervous systems of invading bugs. While humans find it highly addictive because of how it interacts with our brain chemistry, Washing a duck with dish soap can actually end in a silent tragedy. Ducks stay buoyant thanks to a special protective oil secreted from their preen gland. If you strip away that oil with heavy soap, their feathers will instantly absorb water like a dry sponge. Nature created a biological bulletproof vest just to survive a killer bite. Cougars always hunt by biting down directly on the throat. So to survive, the wild guanaco evolved neck skin that is 3 times thicker than the rest of its body. When a cougar lunges and bites, its razor-sharp teeth get completely stuck in the tough leather. Millions of sunflowers were planted around Chernobyl and Fukushima for a terrifyingly beautiful reason. These flowers are powerful hyperaccumulators that vacuum up radioactive isotopes like cesium and strontium directly from the poisoned soil, storing them safely in their stems and petals. They are nature's own beautiful radioactive vacuum cleaners. A healthy snack for you can be an instant death sentence for your dog. Grapes are completely harmless to us, but even a single one can trigger sudden, irreversible kidney failure in a dog. They contain tartaric acid, which our bodies process easily, but a dog's system can't filter it out. During World War II, the German Navy built a helicopter that looked like an engineering mistake but flew like a dream. This was the Flettner FL-282 Hummingbird, featuring 2 interlocking rotors spinning in opposite directions to provide incredible stability. Only a tiny handful were ever built for shipboard reconnaissance. That cheap supermarket burger patty you just bought contains a crowd. DNA testing reveals that a single, inexpensive ground beef patty can contain meat from up to 100 different cows. In massive industrial processing plants, leftover trimmings from thousands of different animals are tossed into giant grinders. Sticking your chopsticks upright in a bowl of rice in Japan is an absolute disaster. It is considered one of the worst insults you can commit at the dinner table. In Japanese Buddhist tradition, that exact gesture is reserved exclusively for food offerings placed on altars for the dead during funerals. There's a real lake in Australia that looks like a giant bowl of bubblegum milk. This is Lake Hillier, and its vibrant pink color is totally real. Scoop some into a glass, and it stays pink under any light. The magic comes from a tiny alga called Dunaliella salina, which pumps out red pigments in super salty water to shield itself from the sun. Ever wonder why some big rig trucks drive around with their wheels floating in the air? Those are lift axles, designed to raise up when the truck is empty. It cuts down on tire friction to save fuel on return trips, and stops tires from wearing down when there's no heavy load to carry. Imagine driving a car designed by a refrigerator company. That was the iconic BMW Isetta, built right after World War II, which opened exactly like a kitchen fridge with the entire front serving as one giant door. The absolute wildest part? The steering wheel and pedals were bolted directly to the door. In India, there is a giant boulder that defies gravity on a steep slope. Known as Krishna's Butterball, this massive 250-ton rock sits perfectly balanced on a hill with barely any surface contact, refusing to budge for over 100 years. A local king once harnessed 7 elephants to pull it down. Deep in the forests of Asia lives a goat antelope that looks like it has 4 eyes. This is the sero, a bizarre creature with massive preorbital glands right beneath its real eyes that look exactly like a second weeping pear. It rubs these fake eyes against trees and boulders, leaving behind a sticky, intense-smelling goo to claim its territory. Talk about keeping an extra eye on your property. Gold's real value isn't just because it's rare, it's because it's functionally immortal. It is one of the only metals on Earth that never rusts, resists almost all acids, and never breaks down over time. The gold in your ring might have once belonged to an Egyptian pharaoh. The longest mountain range on Earth is completely invisible to us. Stretching for over 40,000 miles, the mid-ocean ridge wraps around the globe like the seams on a baseball. You wouldn't exist today if it weren't for a prehistoric virus. Millions of years ago, an ancient retrovirus hijacked the DNA of our ancestors, and that viral fragment eventually evolved into the syncytin gene, which is absolutely vital for developing the placenta. There's a tiny muscle between your eyebrows that speaks louder than words. It's called the procerus muscle, a small triangular muscle that pulls your brows down and flares your nose. This is the exact muscle that lets you flash a look of pure disgust or anger, sending a clear message of rejection to anyone looking at you. Your beloved air fryer is actually built on a marketing lie. It doesn't fry a single thing. It is actually just a compact convection oven with a high-powered fan that blasts super hot air around a small basket, rapidly roasting the outside of your food to mimic that satisfying, oily crunch. Space isn't actually silent, and NASA has the recordings to prove it. Scientists converted electromagnetic vibrations captured from outer space into actual audio tracks. The rings of Saturn produce an eerie, ghostly hum, while Earth sings its own continuous cosmic melody. Brushing your teeth does way more than just protect your smile, it protects your heart. Your mouth is a direct highway to your bloodstream. When bacteria inflame your gums and cause them to bleed, those microbes hitch a ride straight to your cardiovascular system. In fact, cardiologists regularly find common mouth bacteria. During pregnancy, a baby leaves a permanent biological gift inside its mother. Thousands of fetal stem cells cross the placenta and integrate into the mother's heart, lungs, and brain, living there for decades. If the mother suffers a heart injury years later, ever wonder why the smell of gasoline is strangely satisfying? Gas contains benzene, a chemical compound with a mild anesthetic effect that triggers a subtle rush of euphoria when inhaled. Because your olfactory bulb is wired directly into your brain's memory bank, that scent instantly triggers nostalgic memories of childhood road trips. Without ultra-precise clocks in space, your phone's GPS would be totally useless. Atomic clocks are so precise they won't lose a single second in 15 billion years. To pinpoint your exact location on Earth, satellites have to coordinate signals down to millionths of a second, otherwise, your map would be off by miles. The man who first broke the sound barrier did it with 2 broken ribs and a broomstick. In 1947, Chuck Yeager climbed into the experimental Zone aircraft in agonizing pain. Unable to reach and lock the cockpit hatch, he used a sawed-off broom handle to pry it shut. One of the world's fastest-growing sports was invented because of a bad real estate problem. Padel was born in 1969 when a Mexican businessman wanted a tennis court in his Acapulco home, but didn't have enough space. He built a miniature court instead, but the balls kept flying into his neighbor's yard. An annoying property line created a global sports phenomenon. The highest peak on Earth was once at the bottom of the ocean. Mount Everest reaches nearly 29,000 feet into the sky, yet the rock at its very summit is limestone packed with ancient marine fossils. Even if you left your car baking in the perfect desert sun all day, a solar roof would barely generate enough power to drive an extra 3 miles. Commercial solar panels only operate at around 20% efficiency, meaning the added weight and cost completely wipe out any benefit. The word sushi doesn't actually mean raw fish. It literally translates from Japanese as sour rice. It started out as an ancient preservation method, where fresh fish was packed between layers of fermented rice, so the acid would kill off bacteria. Back then, people threw the rice away and only ate the cured fish. Next time you eat corn on the cob, try counting the rows. Every single ear of corn always grows an even number of rows because its cells split in perfect symmetry. If you ever find one with an odd number, you are holding a major genetic mutation that occurs only once in several million years. There is a gang of mountain parrots in New Zealand that will happily dismantle your car. This is the Kia, the world's only alpine parrot, and they are a complete nightmare for tourists. If you park your car in their territory, these highly intelligent birds will work in teams to rip off your windshield wipers. When your freshly washed dog immediately sprints outside to roll in the dirt, they aren't being bad, it's pure ancient wolf instinct. That sweet lavender shampoo you used is basically a giant neon sign alerting prey and predators to their exact location. Penguins gave up flying in the sky to conquer a much tougher element. Water is 800 times denser than air, so evolution fused their wing bones together, turning them into rigid, paddle-like flippers. They might look clumsy waddling on ice. A simple light bulb swap in Japan and Scotland managed to save lives. When cities replaced traditional orange streetlights with calm blue ones, crime and suicide rates instantly plummeted. Psychologists believe the color blue triggers a deep calming effect, forcing people to pause and rethink their impulses before making a terrible mistake. The parking brake is designed to keep a parked car perfectly still, not to stop a speeding one. Hitting it at high speed locks your rear wheels, sending you into a violent, uncontrollable spin because it doesn't have the anti-lock brake system your pedal brakes do. All those slick movie stunts would total your car in real life. Hollywood lied to you. Formula One tires come off a race feeling like sticky, chewed gum. They pick up tons of dust and tiny rubber shreds from the track, making the car heavier. And here's the twist. That extra weight is actually a blessing. Be careful with starfruit. It contains caramboxin, a neurotoxin that healthy kidneys can handle just fine. But if your kidneys have even a hidden problem, the toxin slips right through and crosses the blood-brain barrier. The first warning signs are uncontrollable hiccups and sudden confusion, which can escalate into seizures. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. launched Operation Popeye. They seeded clouds with silver iodide to create massive rainstorms, turning enemy supply routes into impassable seas of mud. When the classified program was finally revealed, global outrage was so intense that by 1977, a male pufferfish swims tirelessly for weeks, flapping his fins to carve a breathtaking geometric mandala over 6 feet wide into the ocean floor. All that artistic effort has just one purpose: to impress a single female and convince her to lay her eggs right in the center. Those Scottish Highland cows don't have their massive, shaggy bangs for fashion. The Highlands are brutal, with freezing winds and swarms of aggressive flies. That thick fringe is designed to protect their eyes from nasty infections and even prevent snow blindness. Speed bumps are getting a genius upgrade. Some new ones are hollow rubber tubes filled with a non-Newtonian fluid. If you crawl over them at 12 miles per hour, the liquid simply parts and you barely feel a thing. But try to take one at 40, and the sudden impact locks those molecules together. Lion cubs can't roar until they are nearly 2 years old. Their voice box simply hasn't developed yet. So when they're tiny, they sound exactly like a house cat. They meow for food and purr when their mother licks them clean. That iconic scene from The Lion King where Simba tries to roar as a cub is biologically impossible. During World War II, an elite unit of artists known as the Ghost Army saved thousands of lives without firing a single bullet. They used inflatable rubber tanks, pre-recorded sounds of real armored divisions, and fake radio broadcasts to completely deceive German forces. Their incredible story was classified top secret for over 50 years. Flipping a coin isn't actually a 50-50 gamble. Mathematician Percy Diaconis proved there's a physical bias. There is roughly a 51% chance the coin will land on the same side that was facing up before you tossed it. The physics of its spin in the air keeps the original orientation locked in longer than you'd think. A rock hyrax looks like a chubby little guinea pig, but run a DNA test and you'll find its closest living relative is the African elephant. It has the identical bone structure in its feet, tiny little tusks that look eerily elephantine, and a surprisingly advanced memory system for its tiny size. Seeing bright colors and smelling fresh produce makes your brain release dopamine, instantly putting you in a better mood. Plus, buying something healthy first thing gives you a huge moral win that shuts down your guilt, making you far more likely to toss junk food into your cart later. It is psychological warfare disguised as a taste test. Deep inside Uranus and Neptune, massive heat and crushing pressure turn methane into solid diamonds that rain down toward the planet's core. Scientists have even replicated the process in labs, creating tiny nanodiamonds here on Earth. Both planets could be hiding vast oceans of liquid carbon. The tiny muscles that give you goosebumps are useless in humans. Their only job is to make your hair stand up when you're cold or scared. In ancient ancestors with thick fur, this trapped a layer of warm air. In furry animals, it makes them look bigger to an enemy. An Australian thorny devil lizard can drink water just by standing in a puddle. Its entire skin is covered in microscopic grooves that act like tiny drinking straws. Water travels automatically across its body, straight to the corners of its mouth, without a single muscle twitch. It is a perfect evolutionary solution. The hero shrew has a spine like something out of science fiction. Its vertebrae are massively thick and interlocked like gears. A fully grown human, weighing 170 pounds, can stand directly on its tiny back without crushing a single bone. It's a creature built like a tank. The city of Shibam in Yemen is a miracle of ancient engineering. 500 mud brick towers, some as tall as 11 stories, were built in the 16th century without a single piece of steel or cement. They are made of pure sun-dried mud and wood. As of the year 2026, physicists still can't perfectly explain why a bicycle doesn't fall over. It's a bizarre mix of gyroscopic effect, mass distribution, and the angle of the front fork. If you give a riderless bike a good push, the number one cause of workplace injuries isn't heavy machinery. It's far more boring and far more deadly, slipping and falling on the same level. A simple unmarked wet floor or a single loose cable in an office causes more spinal cord injuries worldwide than all the industrial equipment combined. If a plane has to make an emergency landing on the ocean, those wings become a deadly, slippery slide. That's why you'll see two bright yellow hooks on top of every aircraft wing. Flight attendants use them to tie a rope from the emergency door, creating a quick handrail so passengers can walk across the wing. Owls look round and fluffy, with little claws peeking out from the bottom. But that is just a clever trick of the feathers. Lift the lower feathers of an owl and prepare for a shock. They have extremely long, bony, muscular legs that make up almost half their entire body height. They need those long legs to absorb the violent shock of dropping out of the sky onto their prey. The urban legend about a firefighting plane sucking up a scuba diver is a complete physical impossibility. These planes don't use a suction tube. They skim across the water surface at nearly 100 miles per hour, filling their 1,500-gallon tanks in 12 seconds through small intake grates, no bigger than a shoebox. When a bullet train brakes hard before entering a tunnel, it is pure physics. If it blasted in at nearly 200 miles per hour, it would push the air ahead like a giant plunger. That compressed air would shoot out the other side, creating a sonic boom violent enough to shatter windows in nearby towns and rupture eardrums. Every single Spanish Christmas lottery ticket is printed with invisible inks and embedded silk fibers that only show up under ultraviolet light. This makes it impossible to cash a high-quality photocopy of a winning ticket. Each one of those colorful slips is a security document as technologically complex as a real banknote. A person who is actually drowning doesn't scream or wave their arms like in the movies. Their body switches to automatic survival mode. Total silence, a perfectly vertical position, head barely bobbing at the surface, and arms pushing down as if climbing an invisible ladder. Bird lungs are completely different from ours. They are rigid, they don't inflate and deflate like a balloon. Instead, they use air sacs that act like bellows, forcing air to move in a single continuous loop. This makes their breathing far more efficient than ours. Inside the Arctic Circle during summer, the sun simply doesn't set for weeks on end. In cities like Tromsø, Norway, the day never ends. Life there adapts with permanent blackout curtains and people going about their business at any hour. The Eiffel Tower changes size with the seasons. In summer, the heat expands its iron structure, making it grow up to 6 inches taller. In winter, the cold shrinks it back down. It's a living, breathing structure that literally responds to the weather. expanding and contracting with every temperature shift throughout the year. On the moon, there is virtually no atmosphere, so sound has no molecules to travel through. Even if you tried to whistle with all your might, absolutely no sound would leave your helmet. On top of that, the different pressure inside the helmet makes whistling physically very difficult. In space, you can't even hear yourself make a sound. New Zealand's tuatara is the last survivor of an order of reptiles that walked with dinosaurs 200 million years ago. It has a literal third eye on the top of its head, complete with a lens and retina. A cruise ship 20 stories high shouldn't be able to stay stable on the open ocean. It stays upright thanks to massive, computer-controlled underwater fins. These detect the movement of an incoming wave in milliseconds and twist the fin in the opposite direction underwater. Parrots have their own language. When a chick is born, its parents assign it a unique vocal signature, basically a personal name. The chick memorizes that exact sound, and for the rest of its life, it uses that specific squawk to introduce itself to other parrots in the jungle. The United States operates 11 active aircraft carriers, 300-foot floating airports. Russia countered this with the Poseidon underwater drone, a nuclear torpedo that can cross entire oceans at extreme depth and detonate near an enemy coast, generating a radioactive tsunami. It is a duel between the visible power of the surface and the invisible terror of the deep. Major museums like the Louvre only display about 5% of their collections to the public. The other 95% is locked away in high-security underground bunkers. In case of a fire, those bunkers are wired with systems that instantly flood the rooms with nitrogen gas to extinguish the flames without using a single drop of water. In every car dealership on the planet, the front wheels are always perfectly straight, and the logo on the steering wheel is perfectly aligned. This is a deliberate visual trick. It makes the car look like it is ready to launch forward the moment you sit down, unconsciously increasing the urge to buy before the customer even gets in the driver's seat. The Panzer VIII Maus tank weighed 188 tons and was practically invulnerable. It was a true monster of armor. The problem was it couldn't cross any bridge in the world, and its massive engines overheated constantly. Only 2 prototypes were ever completed before the end of World War II, and it never saw a single real battle. Elephants are one of the very few animals that recognize themselves in a mirror. In experiments, they will touch marks painted on their body with their trunk marks they can only see in their reflection. This proves they have real self-awareness. Only the great apes, dolphins, and some incredibly intelligent crows share this cognitive ability. In a twin pregnancy, sometimes an embryo dies very early on, and the surviving twin simply absorbs it. The baby is born perfectly healthy, but that person is a chimera. They carry 2 completely different sets of DNA within the same body. Their blood might hold their own DNA. The superb bird of paradise has feathers that absorb 99.95% of all visible light, making it one of the purest blacks in nature. During a mating dance, it fans these feathers into a perfect oval of absolute darkness, making its bright electric blue eyes the only thing a female can see. Your veins aren't rigid pipes. They are suspended in loose, slippery connective tissue under your skin. If a nurse's needle enters at a slightly wrong angle, the pressure pushes the vein tube aside, forcing them to dig around under your skin, hunting for the hidden vessel that keeps sliding away. An oasis isn't just a lucky puddle in the desert. The wind erodes the sand down into a deep hole until it hits a hidden underground aquifer. Fossil water trapped there for millions of years bubbles up to the surface. The water you find in many ancient oases can be 20,000 years old. The Zhangjiajie Mountains in China are massive pillars of sandstone that rise over 3,000 feet into the sky while being only a few feet wide. The fog makes them look like floating islands. The directors of Avatar admitted that this very landscape was the direct inspiration for the floating mountains of Pandora. A panther chameleon doesn't change color to hide. That's a complete myth. It changes according to temperature and mood. When cold, it turns dark to absorb more sunlight. When it sees a rival or wants to impress a female, It changes the distance between microscopic crystals in its skin to reflect neon red and yellow. It is a living mood ring, not a camouflage artist. Earwax isn't dirt. It is a mixture of oils and sweat designed to trap dust and bugs before they reach your eardrum. It even has active antibacterial properties, and your body pushes it all out automatically every time you move your jaw to talk or chew. A reusable water bottle that isn't washed with soap is a bacterial breeding ground. After just 2 days of humidity, a microscopic slime layer forms on the inside walls. Lab tests have proven that a bottle you only rinse with water can accumulate more fecal bacteria and germs than the top of a public toilet seat you never cleaned. The McGurk effect proves that your eyes can hear better than your ears. If you watch a video of someone's lips clearly saying times FA times, but the audio plays times B, your brain will literally override reality and make you hear times FA. In the forest of Gryfino, Poland, 400 pine trees have a strange, perfect curve at their base, all bent to the north. They were planted in 1930, and still, no one knows why they grew like that. Theories range from deliberate human manipulation to make curved wood, to strange soil anomalies. The secret died with whoever planted them. Launched in 1958, the Vanguard 1 satellite is the oldest human-made object still orbiting our planet. Its predecessor, Sputnik 1, launched a year earlier, re-entered the atmosphere and burned up just 3 months after takeoff. Vanguard 1 is still circling the Earth, a silent ghost from the Cold War. A three-toed sloth has terrible eyesight and relies mostly on touch to get around. Sometimes it will reach out a claw and grab a tight hold of its own arm, mistaking it for a branch. When it lets go of its main grip to reach for the next branch, in the middle of the Turkmenistan desert, there's a crater that has been burning non-stop since 1971. Soviet geologists set the escaping gas on fire, thinking it would burn out in a few days. At night, the glow is visible for miles. It's been burning for over 50 years. Walruses can fall asleep floating in the open ocean without drowning or lifting a finger. They have special air pouches in their throat called pharyngeal sacs that they can inflate at will. These act like a built-in life vest, keeping their head above water while they sleep soundly for hours. They literally nap in the middle of the sea. Incognito mode doesn't make you invisible online. Your internet provider, your employer, if you're on a work computer, and every website you visit still know exactly who you are and what you're doing. All it does is stop your own device from saving the browsing history and cookies from that session locally. Estonia was the first country in the world to offer digital residency. Anyone on the planet can apply to become an e-resident of Estonia, legally open a business in the European Union, and manage it from anywhere in the world without ever physically setting foot in the country. Not even once. White mushrooms, cremini, and portobellos are sold at different prices, as if they're different species. They are the exact same fungus, the only difference is age. The white one is the baby, the cremini is the teenager, and the portobello is simply the same mushroom left to grow into full adulthood. The bontebok is a beautiful African antelope with a striking white face and a ridiculous evolutionary flaw. It is physically incapable of jumping over objects. While other antelopes clear 10-foot fences with ease, the bontebok would rather crawl underneath. This quirk nearly drove it to extinction. In Florida, a man named Edward Leedskalnin single-handedly built Coral Castle, moving limestone blocks weighing up to 30 tons without any modern machinery. He worked in total secrecy for decades, driven by a broken heart. No one has ever fully explained how he did it. Seagulls sometimes tap dance furiously on park grass, stomping their feet at high speed. They're not playing, they're mimicking the sound and vibration of heavy rainfall. Earthworms, tricked into thinking they're about to drown, crawl to the surface and the gull eats them without digging a single inch. The saiga antelope has a bizarre, bulbous nose that works like a high-tech air filter. In summer, it filters out steppe dust. In winter, it warms freezing air before it reaches the lungs. These animals can hit 50 miles per hour, but they were pushed to the brink of extinction by poachers hunting their horns for traditional medicine. At the center of the most violent hurricanes, there's an eerily calm zone with no rain and barely any wind. Sometimes you can even see the stars through the gap in the swirling clouds above. That deceptive silence has killed people who stepped outside thinking the storm was over, only to be hit by the second wall of fury minutes later. Racing motorcycle tires become almost sticky when they hit around 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what allows riders to lean at 60-degree angles without sliding out. Try the same lean on a cold street tire, and the bike would launch you into the air instantly. Zero chemical grip means zero chance. 90% of your serotonin, the so-called happiness hormone, isn't made in your brain, it's produced in your gut. If you eat heavily processed food every day, you inflame your intestines, kill the bacteria responsible for making serotonin, and trigger real episodes of anxiety and biological depression. At Maho Beach in St. Martin, the airport runway sits so close to the sand that planes pass just a few feet over the heads of sunbathing tourists before touching down. People travel there specifically to feel the brutal engine blast. Warning signs everywhere remind you that standing that close can be genuinely dangerous. The Bridge of Sighs in Venice, where couples kiss under it in gondolas, has a horrifying backstory. It connected the interrogation rooms of the Doge's palace to the prison dungeons. Those sighs weren't romantic, they were the final laments of political prisoners crossing the bridge. When stress overwhelms your body, the vagus nerve pulls the emergency brake, crashing your blood pressure to protect your heart. If your blood sugar drops at the same time, your brain shuts off the screen and you faint. Hitting the floor is actually your body's perfect reset mechanism. Gravity rushes blood back to your head without any effort. The most dangerous object in your kitchen isn't a machine, it's a dull knife. A sharp blade glides through food effortlessly. A dull one forces you to push hard. The moment it slips off the skin of a tomato, all that uncontrolled force goes straight into your fingers. In Linz, Austria, the pedestrian traffic lights show hearts and couples holding hands instead of the standard stick figure. They were designed to promote inclusion and respect. The idea spread to other European cities, turning an everyday object into a visible symbol of tolerance at every single crosswalk. Tractor tires run at much lower pressure than car tires, so the rubber flattens out and spreads the weight without compacting the soil underneath. If the ground gets packed too tight, plant roots can't push through and the crops die. Those massive tread patterns bite into soft earth to keep the tractor from spinning out. Every groove has a purpose. If synthetic fertilizers vanished overnight, the apocalypse would arrive within months. Right now, 50% of the nitrogen in your own cells comes from those artificial factories. Without them, Earth could only feed about 4 billion people. The other half of humanity would starve almost immediately. The tasseled wobbegong shark has the most effective camouflage on the ocean floor. Its body is completely flat, and fleshy, fringe-like appendages around its mouth perfectly mimic seaweed. It lies completely motionless. The Belvedere Palace in Vienna uses forced perspective as a psychological weapon. The fountains and pathways narrow as they rise, so when you stand at the bottom looking up at the upper palace, it appears far more massive and imposing than it actually is. It was deliberately designed to intimidate guests before they even reach the front door. South Africa is the only country in the world with 3 official capitals operating simultaneously. Pretoria handles executive power, Cape Town handles legislation, and Bloemfontein handles the judiciary. This unique split was deliberately designed to prevent any single region from holding all governmental control over the entire nation. The Phone 17 Nighthawk was the first aircraft ever designed to be invisible to radar. Its extreme angular shape deflected radar waves instead of bouncing them back. It was so aerodynamically unstable that it needed a computer just to stay in the air. It operated in total secrecy for years before its combat debut over Baghdad during the Gulf War. If the sun suddenly went dark, we wouldn't notice for 8 minutes and 20 seconds. That's how long its light takes to reach us. Gravity also travels at the speed of light, so Earth would keep orbiting a ghost star during that window. After that, the sky would go pitch black in an instant, and our planet would be flung into the endless void. When someone with a massively inflated ego gets publicly cornered, they don't apologize. They experience a narcissistic collapse. Their ego isn't real confidence. It's a fragile shield hiding deep shame underneath. When that shield cracks, the brain panics and responds with either explosive, destructive rage or flips into extreme victimhood to hijack the conversation. At Lake Baikal in Siberia, methane gas trapped beneath the ice can actually catch fire. The gas seeps up from the lake bed, and when ignited, it creates flickering blue flames dancing on top of the frozen surface. If you have European or Asian ancestry, you carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA in every single cell of your body. That ancient code influences your immune system and your adaptation to cold climates. We are a genetic mosaic, carrying our extinct cousins woven permanently into our own biological blueprint. California's Shake Alert system detects the very first seismic waves of an earthquake and fires alerts to cell phones with precious seconds of advance warning. Those few seconds are enough to automatically stop trains, open trapped elevators, shut off gas valves, and get people to cover. It doesn't predict the quake, it simply announces that one has already started and buys you time to react. Rhinos carry almost no body fat. Beneath that skin, which can be up to 2 inches thick, lies nothing but massive, dense muscle. They are also remarkably long-lived in the wild. They typically survive 40 to 50 years, making them one of the longest-living land mammals on the African continent. Varicose veins happen because pushing blood from your feet all the way up to your heart is a massive fight against gravity. Your veins have tiny one-way valves, like little doors that only open upward. After years of standing or due to genetics, those doors break. The pyramids of Giza are aligned with the cardinal directions with less than 1 degree of error. The ancient Egyptians used the equinox method to orient them without any modern technology. That tiny imperfection isn't a mistake. It reveals the limits of a manual technique and makes their astonishing precision even more mind-blowing. When you overeat at a buffet and 20 minutes later you desperately need the bathroom, it's not the food you just ate, it's a neurological reflex. When your stomach stretches suddenly, it sends an immediate signal to your large intestine, ordering it to clear out the old inventory right now to make room. Sharks don't have a swim bladder to control buoyancy. Instead, they have an enormous liver that takes up a full 25% of their body, packed with squalene, an oil less dense than water. It acts as a built-in biological float that keeps them hovering at whatever depth they want. The treadmill was invented in 1818 as a punishment device for English prisoners. It was a massive cylinder with steps where inmates walked 6 to 10 hours a day to grind grain. It destroyed joints so badly that it was banned in the 19th century for being excessively cruel. The sensitive plant moves fast enough for you to watch it happen. Touch its leaves and they snap shut instantly, making the plant look wilted and unappetizing to any passing herbivore. The movement comes from a rapid pressure change in the water inside its cells, working like a tiny pneumatic system triggered by physical contact. It's a plant that flinches. The acai bowls you see in trendy cafes, that frozen purple puree loaded with sweet toppings, are a complete Western invention. In its natural state, acai is bitter, earthy, and tastes metallic. Indigenous Brazilians eat it warm and savory, mixed with cassava flour and fried fish. The fisherman's bastion in Budapest was never a real defensive fortress. It was built at the end of the 19th century as a luxurious panoramic terrace for the city's elite to stroll and admire the Danube. Its name comes from the guild of fishermen who defended that stretch of city wall during the Middle Ages. You don't lose your hair color with age, you're bleaching yourself from the inside. Your hair follicles naturally produce hydrogen peroxide. When you're young, an enzyme called catalase neutralizes it. As you age, you stop producing that enzyme. Without protection, your own body applies pure peroxide to your hair from the root, destroying the pigment strand by strand. In 1990, the Voyager 1 spacecraft took the famous pale blue dot photo from nearly 4 billion miles away. Earth appears as a barely visible speck of light. Carl Sagan wrote that all of human history, every war, every love story, happened on that tiny mote of dust suspended in the darkness of space. The flag of Mozambique is the only national flag in the world that features a modern weapon. An AK-47 assault rifle with a bayonet, representing the defense of the nation, crossed with a hoe symbolizing agriculture. No other country on the planet displays a contemporary automatic weapon. An octopus has 3 hearts and blue blood. 2 hearts pump blood to the gills, and the third pumps it to the rest of the body. Its blood is blue because it uses copper-based hemocyanin instead of iron. When it swims at full speed, its main heart actually stops beating. Phantom traffic jams happen when one driver brakes just a little harder than necessary. The car behind brakes harder, the next one even harder. That chain reaction creates a wave of stopped cars that travels backward at about 10 miles per hour. The decorator crab has the most active camouflage system in the ocean. Its shell is covered in stiff, Velcro-like hairs. Using its claws, it rips off pieces of algae, sponges, and anemones and sticks them all over its body, transforming itself into a walking underwater garden. You'll never board a plane from the right side, and it's the Vikings' fault. Their longships had a steering oar mounted on the right side, called starboard, so they could only dock on the left to avoid breaking it. When airplanes were invented, engineers copied maritime law and treated them like ships of the sky. Crabs walk sideways because their leg joints are designed to bend outward, not forward. This lets them move fast between rocks without tripping over their own limbs. If they tried to walk straight ahead like a human, their legs would constantly jam against each other. Sideways is the only way that works. The canopy of a tropical rainforest blocks almost all sunlight. If an old tree falls and opens a gap of light, thousands of plants launch into a desperate, life-or-death race to grow into that bright patch before the neighboring trees close it up again. In the jungle, light is currency. Inside your phone, there's a tiny MEMS gyroscope. When you tilt or rotate your phone, the Coriolis force alters the vibration pattern of those arms. A sensor reads that shift and tells the screen to rotate. It's a physical, mechanical device, not software. There are tiny moving parts inside your phone right now. Table salt has an expiration date printed on the package, but salt as a mineral has existed on Earth for millions of years without breaking down. That date is for the plastic container, which degrades over time, or for added iodine, which can lose potency. To know if you can truly afford something expensive, use the rule of 5. If you can't buy that item 5 times over in cash without your finances collapsing, you mathematically can't afford it. You're just stretching your limits to live beyond your real means. If the math doesn't work 5 times, it doesn't work once. Social media invented infinite scroll by removing the bottom of the page. Your brain has no visual signal that says stop, so it doesn't know when to quit. That trance state lets 2 hours evaporate without you noticing. In Yoro, Honduras, fish literally fall from the sky during certain storms. This phenomenon has been documented for over a century. The leading theory is that waterspouts over the ocean suck fish into the air and carry them dozens of miles inland before dropping them on the town. Skyscrapers don't exist because we invented steel. They exist because Elisha Otis invented the elevator safety brake. Before that, if the cable snapped, you died. Otis designed spring-loaded steel teeth that bite into the guide rails the instant a cable breaks, stopping the fall immediately. For spiders and snakes, venom is an external digestive system. They inject enzymes that dissolve their prey's internal organs from the inside out, turning everything into a nutritious liquid smoothie. The spider just walks up and drinks the contents without wasting any energy chewing or digesting tough tissue. Pistachios aren't nuts, they're seeds. They're distant relatives of mangoes and cashews, and their green color comes from chlorophyll, the same pigment found in leaves. Human chimerism is a bizarre condition where one person carries two completely different sets of DNA in their body. It happens when two embryos fuse together in early development, leaving behind a single person built from genetically distinct cells. Elephants are among the only animals left that can act completely naturally in their own habitat. When these ecosystems stay untouched, they become sanctuaries where life truly thrives. Watching these herds rest with their young is a powerful reminder of why these places are worth protecting. The all-time water speed record has stood for more than 45 years. Ken Warby hit 318 miles per hour in the Spirit of Australia, a boat he built in his own backyard out of wood and a military engine. At that speed, water hits like solid concrete. In Northeast India, there's a tradition that stops people in their tracks. Women from the Wancho and Nakte tribes dye their teeth black. It marks major life milestones, using natural blends of charcoal and plants that actually help protect the enamel. The Abbey Library of St. Gall in Switzerland looks like it's straight out of a fairy tale. It's the oldest library in the country, still in use, holding 170,000 volumes and 2,100 medieval manuscripts. On the island of Sumba in Indonesia, there's an ancient ritual called Pasola, where hundreds of men on horseback charge each other with real spears for the sole purpose of spilling blood onto the ground as an offering to their gods. The more blood spilled, the better the harvest. Did you know one of the best archers on earth has no arms? Matt Stutzman, the armless archer, holds the Guinness World Record for the longest accurate shot ever made, nailing a target from 930 feet away. The fungus Ophiocordyceps infects insects, hijacks their nervous system, and steers them to the perfect spot before killing them and bursting out with spores. It sounds like a horror movie, but it's completely real, and it's now inspiring research into more sustainable, biological ways to control pests. The body discovered in the Alps back in 1991 turned out to be the best preserved natural mummy in all of Europe, 5,300 years old. Otzi the Iceman died at 46, killed by an arrow wound to the back. The circular guitar, built by British designer Anthony Dickens, uses a spinning disc with magnetic picks that strikes the strings up to 300 times a minute, creating rhythms no human hand could ever play. Each string even has its own independent output for separate effects. Some houses around the world are literally built on top of international borders. In Barle-Hertog, the line between Belgium and the Netherlands slices straight through streets, shops, and homes. In some cases, which side your front door sits on decides which country's laws, taxes, and services apply to you. Casu Marzu is the most dangerous, banned cheese on the planet. It comes from Sardinia, Italy, made by letting cheese fly larvae break the cheese down into a creamy, intense paste. Eat it without chewing properly, and those larvae can survive the trip and infect your body. Dr. Mashudu Chifularo in South Africa became the first person ever to cure deafness using 3D printed ear bones. The procedure swaps out the three smallest bones in the human body with exact titanium replicas custom built for each patient. Venezuela was once home to the largest man-made forest on Earth, called the Uvarito Forest. Sitting between Anzoátegui and Monagas, it covered close to 1.5 million acres of Caribbean pine, planted entirely by human hands, not nature. Ambuluwawa Tower in Gampola, Sri Lanka, stands roughly 160 feet tall, tapering into a cone so narrow at the top that there's barely room for your feet. The spiral staircase forces you to hug the wall, especially rough when someone's coming down the other way. You can plant seeds almost like you're painting the ground, using a technique called hydroseeding. It's a liquid mix of seeds, water, fertilizer, cellulose, and natural adhesives, sprayed straight onto the soil. The Aloha mobile robot, built at Stanford alongside Google DeepMind, uses 2 arms and full mobility to handle real household chores. With just 50 human demonstrations, it learns the task and pulls off nearly a 90% success rate. Antarctica is technically the largest desert on Earth. Nobody ever pictures it that way. It gets less annual precipitation than most hot deserts. In its McMurdo dry valleys, almost no snow or rain ever falls, and the extreme dryness, brutal cold, and relentless winds stop water from ever building up. The Technomar for Lamborghini 63 is a yacht that sounds, looks, and feels like a supercar. Only 63 were ever made, each one 63 feet long, built as a tribute to the year 1963. Jumping spiders don't just dance, they talk with their bodies. What looks like a playful little routine is actually a vital language shaped by evolution. Every twitch and vibration broadcasts their identity, their health, and their intentions to mate. In Utah, a 56-year-old woman gave birth to her own granddaughter. Nancy became a surrogate for her son and daughter-in-law, who couldn't conceive on their own. Contemporary artist Glory Zaitse makes what's known as staple art, hammering tens or even hundreds of thousands of construction staples, one by one, into wood. Playing with metallic tones like copper, silver, black, and gold, and shifting the depth and angle of each staple, creates light and shadow with insane precision. The Flipper Zero looks like a toy, with its pixel face and cartoon dolphin, but it's packing antennas and sensors that can interact with real-world signals. Sub-gigahertz radio, NFC, RFID, and infrared. It can clone remotes, read cards, and work as a universal controller. David Keita turns his own skin into a canvas, embroidering portraits and memories directly onto the palm of his hand, like every stitch holds a personal story. He only works the top layer of skin, so it feels more like a light scratch than anything else. Inside Vietnam's Hang Son Doong Cave, one of the largest on Earth, there's an almost self-contained ecosystem, complete with its own internal jungle, rivers, animals adapted to total darkness. The Hexa, built by Lift Aircraft, is an electric aircraft you can fly without a traditional pilot's license after just one short training session. It runs on 18 independent propellers, so even if a few fail, it just keeps flying. The Chinese giant salamander is one of the strangest animals alive, with a lineage going back to the Jurassic, when it shared the planet with dinosaurs. It has lungs, but it breathes mainly through its wrinkled skin, pulling oxygen straight from the water. It has no eyelids and terrible eyesight, relying instead on special sensors on its body to detect movement. The Roof Jagger helmet is rewriting motorcycle safety with a unique electronic locking system. Instead of regular buckles, it uses 4 moving parts that open to let your head in, then close around your neck like a safety collar. It's physically impossible for it to pop off on its own. The Baps Swaminarayan Akshardham Temple in Robbinsville, New Jersey, opened in 2023, is the largest Hindu temple in the United States. It's built entirely from Italian marble, with no structural steel, every detail hand-carved using techniques thousands of years old. The double-cut technique in wallpapering makes seams basically disappear. Instead of lining up the edges, installers overlap 2 panels and slice through both at once with a sharp blade in a single pass. Circular pianos, also called arc pianos, blend engineering, music, and visual art into one instrument. Instead of a straight keyboard, the keys wrap in a full ring around the player, letting them play in any direction without moving just by turning their body. Finnish artist Juho Kunkala takes origami to another level entirely. Using a single sheet of paper, no cuts, no glue, he folds full samurai warriors with insane detail. Each piece takes hundreds of hours of planning. A national survey in the United States found that roughly 17 million people believe dark-colored cows naturally produce chocolate-flavored milk. The Windrunner, built by Radia, is an aircraft designed to haul wind turbine blades over 300 feet long, with up to 10 times the cargo capacity of a Boeing 777. It can land on dirt runways and fly straight into remote locations. The Vasa was a massive Swedish warship from the 1600s that sank on August 10, 1628, after sailing barely 0.8 of a mile. It had a fatal design flaw: too many cannons up top, not enough weight down low, making it wildly unstable. Imagine ordering sunlight at night, like a home delivery service. That's exactly what Reflect Orbital is building, a constellation of satellites with giant ultralight mylar mirrors that redirect sunlight from space down to specific spots on Earth. Tesla built a robot to clean its own robotaxi fleet. It climbs into the vehicle on its own, picks up crumbs, empty bottles, even forgotten backpacks with zero human help. It uses sensors, computer vision, and preset routes to navigate inside the car without ever damaging the interior. The mechanical Nautilus SD2 is a steampunk masterpiece, a mechanical Nautilus with articulated tentacles and startlingly realistic movement. Built from aluminum, zinc, and brass, it runs on an internal motorized system with LED lights glowing through its structure. It sells as a collector's item for around $1,000. Writing music on a typewriter became possible thanks to the Keaton Music Typewriter, patented by Robert H. Keaton, a first version in 1936, and an improved one in 1953. Instead of letters, its keys were packed with musical notes, clefs, and symbols. The raccoon dog, or Japanese tanuki, throws everyone off with its looks. It resembles a raccoon, but it's not related to one at all. Here's the wild part. It's the only canid on Earth that hibernates through winter. In Los Santos de Maimona, Spain, there's a jaw-dropping house called El Capricho de Cotrina. Construction began in 1988, built by Francisco González Grajera, a self-taught bricklayer, as a special gift for his young daughter. Between Egypt and Sudan lies a strip of land called Bir Tawil that neither country wants to claim. The mess comes from two conflicting colonial-era borders. If Egypt claimed Bir Tawil, it would lose its claim to the much larger Halab Triangle. The seaweed-based biodegradable wrap from Zero Cycle looks just like plastic, but it isn't. It wraps food exactly like regular plastic wrap, but in a way that's far healthier and far more sustainable. And growing seaweed takes no fertilizer, no fresh water, and no soil at all. A creator in China crammed the real internal components of a PlayStation 5, an Xbox Series X, and a Nintendo Switch into a single working box. The system shares one power supply, one aluminum cooling system, and a single HDMI output for all three consoles. The Taqua speciosa cicada stands out for colors so vivid they barely look real. But its wildest feature isn't visual, it's sound. Males produce that powerful call using organs called tymbals in their abdomen, vibrating at high speed to amplify the noise like a built-in speaker. The Traventus Scan Robot 2.0 MDS can digitize antique books up to 6 inches thick without ever damaging them. Its V-shaped prism captures every page distortion-free, even deep in the spine, working at just a 60-degree angle to avoid straining the binding. The underground tunnels of Vinh Moc in Vietnam were way more than just a wartime hideout. Over 90 families lived down there for years, running their entire lives underground. There were bedrooms, a kitchen, common areas, and some kids were even born beneath the surface. The Beetle Sphere transforms a classic Volkswagen Beetle into a perfect sphere without crushing it. Every original part gets remolded using aluminum and polyester to achieve that flawless round shape. The process means cutting, adjusting, and reassembling every piece without losing the soul of the original car. The IH Harbor campus at Xi'an Jiaotong Liverpool University in China looks like a futuristic city built for innovation. Constructed between 2017 and 2019, it brings together research platforms, hundreds of institutes, and over 100 science hubs with cutting-edge labs in artificial intelligence. Scientists in South Korea have successfully 3D printed living parts of the human eye using real living cells. It's not a transplantable eye yet, but the breakthrough is recreating structures as complex as the retina. 3D bioprinting can now create fully functional human ears for people with microtia. First, they scan the healthy ear to build a perfect mirror image. Then they extract cartilage from the patient, multiply those cells, and mix them into a bioink. Your calf muscles basically work as a second heart. The gastrocnemius and soleus muscles constantly contract and relax as you walk or run, squeezing the veins in your legs and pushing blood back up toward your heart. In the Alcalama district of Huaral, Peru, there's a house only about 2 feet wide. It sounds impossible, but it's fully functional living room, kitchen, bathroom, office, and 2 floors, all built in wood with a Tyrolean style and a pitched roof. The OB feeding robot is changing something as simple as mealtime for people with limited mobility. Its robotic arm picks food from 4 compartments and brings it straight to the user's mouth. It's controlled with tiny buttons that can be triggered by the head, the feet, or whatever movement the person has available. The 1963 film Cleopatra nearly bankrupted 20th Century Fox. It started with a $2 million budget but ended up costing $44 million, about $400 million today. The little people mushroom, identified as Lanmawa asiatica and found growing in Yunnan, southwest China, with similar cases in the Philippines, is famous because eating it raw or undercooked triggers hallucinations of tiny people like elves or residents of Lilliput. The Glocal Me Pet phone lets your dog or cat start 2-way video calls with you from home. It comes packed with 60 relaxing music tracks to ease anxiety, high-precision global tracking, and AI that analyzes your pet's health and behavior in real time. A smart pad developed by the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich can analyze menstrual blood to catch diseases like ovarian cancer and endometriosis in their earliest stages. It's built with specific antibodies that react to biomarkers in the blood. A champagne cork is way more dangerous than it looks. Once it's popped, it can fly off with enough force to cause serious injury, especially if it hits someone in the eye. Orcas are brutally smart, efficient predators that can hunt anything from tiny fish to full-grown whales, using team tactics that look like rehearsed choreography. Every pod develops its own techniques, passed down generation after generation, like creating waves to knock prey off the ice. Macro photography reveals a whole hidden world inside everyday life. Details the human eye can never catch in real time turn, under the right lens, into images that completely flip our perspective on the ordinary. In Yunnan, China, the village of Wenping looks like it's stuck in permanent rain. After a devastating fire in 2021 destroyed over 100 homes, the village was rebuilt with automated water cannons that can cover the entire settlement in seconds. Skate wheel. One electric skates look like regular skates at first glance, but you never have to push off. They deliver up to 30 miles of range on a single charge and hit speeds of up to 50 miles per hour. They come with a removable battery for longer rides at a price tag of around $1,800. One man turned a polluted junkyard into a medieval village straight out of a movie. Near Buenos Aires, Antonio Campana built Campanopolis entirely from demolition scraps. With old doors, windows, wood, iron, and stone, he raised towers, castles, bridges, and leaning houses. The inventor who turned an agricultural drone into a human transport platform proved just how thin the line is between industrial machinery and personal flight. These machines, originally built to haul gallons of liquid, use high-torque motors and massive propellers that now lift people with astonishing precision. Bats sometimes fall into the water by accident while drinking near the surface, but their instincts save them every time. They use their wings like oars, moving almost like a swimmer doing the butterfly stroke powered by the same chest muscles they use to fly, to push themselves to shore with surprising strength. The Adrer Amalal Hotel, in the Siwa Oasis in Egypt, is built entirely from Kershef, a mix of mud, sand, and salt. Its 40 rooms have no electrical outlets, no TVs, no modern lighting at all. Once night falls, the whole hotel is lit only by candles and oil lamps. In Japanese company Yaskawa's Bushido project, a Motoman MH24 robotic arm recreated the movements of a samurai swordmaster. They captured every motion of swordsman Isao Machi in 3D and the robot replicated them with jaw-dropping precision, slicing fruit and flowers out of midair. It doesn't improvise or adapt on its own, it executes exactly what it learned from a human master. The Wiggy Dual Doggy Double Leash changed dog walking forever with a 360-degree swivel system, where both leads extend from a rotating central axis so they never tangle, even when the dogs keep crossing paths. The Hussaini Suspension Bridge in Pakistan tests even the bravest of nerves. Its gapped wooden planks, worn steel cables, and constant swaying in the wind make every single step feel like an eternity. The MZ Streamliner motorcycle was built by German engineer Sebastian Brandt, based on a classic MZ ES 250 from former East Germany. It keeps the original two-stroke engine with that unmistakable sound and smell straight from another era. My Metmois shoes with interchangeable heels let you swap the heel in seconds without ever taking the shoe off, going from high to low to flat. Their internal mechanism keeps the foot perfectly stable and aligned, with zero wobble. The Harley-Davidson Blue Edition is considered one of the most expensive motorcycles on Earth, valued at close to $1,900,000. It's studded with over 360 diamonds, gold-plated parts, and an engine with built-in interior lighting. It wasn't built for speed, it was built to impress, period. The red banana, also known as the purple banana, daca, or red Spanish banana, belongs to the triploid banana family. Its reddish peel hides a creamy pulp with pink undertones. Unlike the yellow banana, it carries a hint of berry flavor with a noticeably stronger sweetness. At the Mercedes-Benz Museum in Stuttgart, there's a Formula One car on display completely taken apart, over 1,000 components floating along a line that shows exactly how speed gets built. Sports cameramen, especially in basketball, can anticipate plays in a split second, almost like they're inside the game themselves. They're not just moving the camera, they're reading the rhythm of the game, positioning perfectly, and reacting without a moment's hesitation. One creator used AI to imagine the future of Stranger Things after the series finale. In the viral scene, Eleven and Mike are attacked in their own home, but their son has inherited the powers. The level of cinematic detail left millions of fans online completely speechless. When a hamster climbs into its tiny chair to eat, it's not just for the cuteness factor. Hamsters actually prefer sitting to better handle food with their paws and keep their balance while processing it. Their spatial memory lets them remember routines and routes for weeks at a time. The giant Leshan Buddha in Sichuan, China, was carved directly into a cliff face at the meeting point of three rivers. It stands over 230 feet tall and includes an internal drainage system that prevents erosion. Malva's hyper-realistic insect photography connects viewers with the invisible architects of the ecosystem. These tiny creatures that keep the whole planet in balance rarely get any attention, but under the right lens, they reveal extraordinary complexity and beauty. Mehran Karimi Nasseri, an Iranian refugee, spent 18 years living inside Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport. It all started in 1988 when he lost his documents and got trapped in a legal limbo, unable to enter France and unable to fly anywhere else. The Chocolate Hills on Bohol Island in the Philippines are one of the most striking natural formations on the planet. They're green most of the year, but during the dry season, the grass turns brown, and the whole landscape looks like it's covered in giant chunks of chocolate. France developed an artificial heart called Ason, created by the company Carmat, capable of replacing a human heart for years without needing a donor. The device mimics the functions of a real heart and adjusts blood flow based on the body's needs. A woodpecker can strike up to 1,200 times a minute without suffering any brain damage. Its tongue wraps all the way around its skull, acting as a built-in shock absorber, basically a biological helmet. This natural engineering has inspired research into new materials for helmets. Ice volcanoes exist on moons throughout the solar system, like Enceladus in Europa. Unlike volcanoes on Earth, they don't erupt with hot lava, they spew water, ice, ammonia, or methane out into space. It happens because temperatures out there are unbelievably cold. The Burton and Motorola Audex jacket let you answer Bluetooth calls, control music from your sleeve, and hear sounds straight from the hood, all without ever pulling your phone out of your pocket. Built for snowboarders, it had removable electronics for easy washing, cost around $600, and kept devices protected from extreme cold. The Deka Luke bionic prosthetic, developed with support from DARPA, works through electromyography electrodes that read muscle signals from the residual limb and translate them into up to 10 motorized movements. It includes 6 grip types, letting users do everything from holding tools to handling fragile objects. The CO glove, created by Kenyan engineer Roy Alila, after watching his deaf niece struggle to communicate, has sensors on every finger that capture hand movements and send them to an app that translates them into speech in real time. In Oymyakon, a tiny town in eastern Siberia, temperatures have dropped as low as 96 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Modern satellites now use AI to analyze data and make decisions without waiting for instructions from Earth. This lets them spot wildfires, storms, or surface changes on their own and decide what information to send back first. Your smartphone today has way more computing power than the computers used for the Apollo 11 moon mission. The lunar module's guidance computer had just a few kilobytes of memory, laughably limited compared to today's technology. Researchers are developing microneedle patch vaccines that stick to the skin and release the drug without any traditional needle. The method can be less painful, easier to distribute, and doesn't always require strict refrigeration. The Mponeng mine in South Africa is the deepest gold mine on Earth. To reach the bottom, workers have to descend over 2.5 miles, a trip that can take more than an hour, even in high-speed elevators. Stratacut animation, pushed to the extreme by David Daniels, involves sculpting a block of clay with hidden internal designs, then slicing it layer by layer, photo by photo. Each cut destroys the previous image. The ocellated turkey of Central America grows wattles that shift into vivid shades of orange and red during mating season, a visual signal of strength to attract a mate. Its iridescent feathers flash blue, green, and gold, seeming to shift color with the light. The Huamoa banana, native to Polynesia and common in Hawaii, can grow up to 10 inches long and 4 inches thick, 3 to 4 times bigger than a regular banana. Green, it's used like a plantain for frying. Ripe, it's eaten as a sweet fruit. Kevin Champagne's portrait of Marilyn Monroe uses over 10,000 lipsticks, arranged like pixels to build light and shadow with incredible detail. This artist turns everyday objects into massive works of art that sell for thousands of dollars. In the 1920s, women known as flappers started painting their knees. As they shortened their skirts and danced the Charleston non-stop, they turned that one body part into a symbol of total freedom. The makeup highlighted every movement, turning the dance itself into a spectacle. The chaja, also called the Southern Screamer, is a South American bird whose call can be heard from over 2 miles away. It looks like an imposing bird of prey, but it's actually a distant relative of ducks and swans. It carries 2 bony spurs on each wing, which it uses to defend itself from threats. Short spine syndrome is an extremely rare genetic disorder in dogs, where the vertebrae never fully develop into bone, staying as cartilage instead. It reshapes the animal's entire structure from birth, leaving it unable to turn its head normally. Futuroscope Park near Poitiers, France, is considered the most futuristic park in Europe. There are no traditional roller coasters here, just technology, giant screens, simulators, and 4-dimensional experiences where you don't just watch, you live it from the inside. One attraction even simulates being trapped inside a real tornado. The Silledam building in Amsterdam, completed in 2002, looks like it's floating on the IJ Lake. It packs in 157 homes of many different types, plus offices and shared spaces, all compressed into a single block on the water. Water lizards have a wild trick up their sleeve. They can trap an air bubble right on their snout that lets them breathe while fully submerged, dodging predators completely. Held in place by their water-repellent skin, that bubble acts like a tiny recycled oxygen tank. The airfish vehicle rides the ground effect, gliding just a few feet above the water using the air pressure trapped between the craft and the surface. It hits speeds up to 3 times faster than a lot of conventional boats. It's built for fast coastal routes, tourism, shipping, and security missions. The Spear of Destiny, also called the Lance of Longinus, is the supposed weapon a Roman soldier used to pierce Jesus' side during the crucifixion. Emperors, kings, and conquerors have hunted for it for centuries, convinced it granted invincible power to whoever held it. Matschie's tree kangaroos spend nearly their entire lives up in the trees on the Huon Peninsula in Papua New Guinea. Unlike regular kangaroos, they evolved for life in the canopy with curved claws, powerful hind legs, and a long tail that keeps them balanced. The Red River hog of Central and West Africa has a nearly painted-looking bright red coat with black and white facial markings and long tufted white ears that give it a look no other pig on Earth has. In some private markets, it can sell for between $1,000 and $4,000. The Earth Scraper is an architectural concept designed for Mexico City that proposes digging nearly 1,000 feet underground into an inverted pyramid spanning 65 levels. The idea from the firm BNKR Architectura. Japan's Great Snow Valley, known as Yuki no Otani, is one of the most jaw-dropping landscapes in the entire country. Every spring, massive walls of compacted snow, up to 65 feet tall. A mirage is just an optical illusion caused by extreme heat. The ground heats the air right above it, creating layers at different temperatures. That hot, less dense air stays close to the ground. South Korean artist Cho Yu-ram's kinetic sculpture Round Table features a circular table with 18 headless figures caught in constant motion. A sphere rolls across the surface, and every time it nears a figure, the mechanism lifts it up, keeping the sphere just out of reach. This custom 6x6 Humvee packs a Hellcat engine, putting out over 700 horsepower, a completely reworked body, and one detail nobody sees coming: a spoiler built from an actual airplane wing. The result blends military styling with extreme tuning. The Lil Red Wrecker tow truck was built in 1970 for Red Fox and became famous for its over-the-top design. In 1974, it was picked up by George Barris, the legendary creator of the Batmobile, who restored it, painted it red, and gave it the name it's known by today. The 1988 Bertone Genesis, also known as the Lamborghini Genesis, was a concept car unveiled at the Turin Motor Show. It looked like a futuristic minivan, but under the hood it hid the heart of a supercar, a 5-liter V12 pumping out 455 horsepower. Some viruses can lie completely dormant in your body for decades. A well-known example is the varicella zoster virus, the one behind chickenpox. After the initial infection, it can hide out in nerve cells. Teresa Kachindamoto, a traditional chief in Malawi, dedicated her life to ending child marriage. She annulled over 3,500 marriages and convinced the government to legally ban marriage under the age of 18, sending hundreds of kids back to school. The nudibranch Kuthona yamasui is a tiny sea creature just a couple inches long that glides across the ocean floor with ease. Its orange and blue coloring comes straight from its diet. It eats hydrozoans and stores their toxins in little extensions on its back, turning itself into its own built-in defense system. Sanitronics is a Dutch company that builds automated public restrooms with 2 toilets that work in shifts. While one is in use, the other gets fully washed and dried with pressurized water and biodegradable soap. Every unit has touchless doors, flushing, and hand washing. The EvoBot is a self-balancing, 2-wheeled autonomous robot that can carry up to 220 pounds. It handles ramps and uneven surfaces with ease and navigates through crowds without a single collision thanks to its smart sensors. The human body holds about 1/10 of an ounce of iron, technically enough to make one small nail. But it's not sitting there as solid metal, it's built into hemoglobin, the protein in red blood cells responsible for carrying oxygen. Moving people off an oil rig and onto a ship takes serious precision. The most common method uses telescoping gangways with real-time compensation systems that adjust to the motion of the waves. The first newscast ever to shift from black and white into color was caught on tape. Footage from a local station in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, captured that historic switch on April 14, 1967. In China, watermelon rind isn't trash, it's a prized ingredient. The white inner layer gets transformed into incredible dishes, stir-fried with spices, pickled as a snack, or dried for storage. Its crunchy texture, similar to cucumber, soaks up flavor beautifully. Xinjiang Maojian tea, known as the king of green teas, comes from the city of Xinjiang in China's Henan province. Its name literally means Xinjiang furry tips, because its delicate leaves are covered in tiny white hairs. Shanghai Pudong International Airport has sleep pods installed right near the boarding gates, letting transit passengers catch some rest without ever leaving the international zone. There are around 30 pods available, each one a tiny private capsule straight out of a sci-fi movie. Science just hit a massive milestone. Hydnora africana looks like it belongs on another planet. It lives almost entirely underground in southern Africa, with no leaves, no stems, and no chlorophyll surviving by parasitizing the roots of other plants. It only surfaces to flower, and to attract pollinating beetles, it releases a stomach-turning smell just like rotting flesh. The Sanctuary of Truth in Thailand is a 345-foot-tall wooden temple built without a single metal nail, using entirely traditional joinery techniques. There's no electricity. Every room is lit purely by natural light filtering in and reflecting off the wood. Smart space debris satellites are a new generation of tech equipped with AI to detect, capture, and recycle waste floating in Earth's orbit. They can identify dangerous debris and grab it with zero human input. This technology is critical to stop chain reaction collisions that could make near-Earth space unusable for future missions. A harpy eagle's talons are about the same size as, or even bigger than, a grizzly bear's claws. This South American raptor needs that kind of power to snatch prey as large as monkeys and sloths straight out of the treetops where it lives. China built a roughly $20 million building dedicated entirely to protecting the golden coin turtle, a species so highly sought after that a single wild male can sell for up to $20,000. It's critically endangered because of its use in traditional medicine and as a status symbol. Artist Stellark surgically implanted an ear onto his own arm as a piece of performance art. The ear was grown from his own skin and a cartilage structure, not for looks, not for function, but to prove the human body doesn't have to stay the same and that new parts can be added in the most unexpected places. Scientists at the University of Pennsylvania developed a chewing gum capable of fighting off common viruses like the flu and herpes. It uses a plant protein extracted from lab beans that traps pathogens before they can infect the body. Predjama Castle in Slovenia is literally built inside a mountain, wedged into the mouth of a cave on a cliff face over 400 feet tall. With more than 800 years of history, it holds the Guinness World Record for the largest cave castle on Earth. Sponge cities are an urban design model that swaps out excess concrete for green, permeable surfaces that soak up heavy rainfall. They cut down on flooding, recharge groundwater, and help regulate urban temperatures in the face of climate change. Creator Cohen Bricks built a fully functional typewriter using nothing but Lego pieces. Every key triggers a real system of levers and gears that moves a mechanical arm, strikes an inked ribbon, and types letters onto paper. Divers working at extreme depths for long stretches don't breathe regular air, they breathe a mix of oxygen and helium. At those depths, the nitrogen in normal air can mess with their mental state, causing narcosis. Chinese company Betavolt developed a miniature nuclear battery that never needs an external recharge. It uses the decay of nickel-63 isotopes combined with diamond semiconductors to generate constant power for decades. It can keep small devices running completely on their own for up to 50 years. Scientists have perfected fully transparent windows that work as high-efficiency solar panels without blocking the view or ruining a building's look. They're made from organic materials that absorb only ultraviolet and infrared light to generate electricity. Quetzalcoatlus was the largest flying reptile ever known, with a wingspan of up to 40 feet, roughly the size of a small airplane. On the ground, it stood between 16 and 20 feet tall, about as tall as a giraffe. It didn't live at sea, it hunted small vertebrates on land, walking on all four limbs. Hadzane is a language spoken by fewer than 1,500 people from the Hadzabe tribe in Tanzania. Linguists consider it one of the hardest languages on Earth to transcribe because it's built on tongue clicks. Researchers are combining AI, archaeology, and acoustics to reconstruct how ancient civilizations actually sounded. Using physical remains and historical instruments, they simulate lost voices and soundscapes, turning history into something you can actually listen to and better understand how our ancestors lived day to day. The first certified electric flying taxis, developed by companies like Joby Aviation and Archer, take off vertically like helicopters but fly silently and efficiently. They're designed to shuttle passengers across big cities in minutes, turning a 1-hour car ride into a 10-minute flight. The Pigastat is a clear, capsule-shaped medical device that's been used since the 1960s to keep babies and toddlers still during X-rays. The cylinder holds them upright for a few seconds without any pain, capturing perfect images on the very first try. Borneo's peacock pheasant is one of the most elusive, least-known birds on the planet. It lives exclusively in the rainforests of Borneo and stands out with its dark, metallic sheen plumage, striking blue face, and white legs. Memory implants are emerging technology that use neural devices to restore memories damaged by Alzheimer's. They stimulate the hippocampus, mimicking the brain's natural electrical memory patterns. Early studies show promising results, opening the door to more precise treatments that could complement or replace heavy reliance on medication. Fear of snakes isn't something we're born with. Newborns don't fear them at all, because at birth we only have 2 startle reflexes. Mosquito scientist Perron Ross from the University of Melbourne feeds his research mosquitoes with his own blood. Each of his cages holds around 500 mosquitoes, and since he started back in 2012, he estimates he's donated somewhere around 2 gallons of his own blood. As he jokes himself, he'd be dead if they all fed on him at the same time. Narendra Modi Stadium in India is the largest cricket stadium on Earth, holding roughly 132,000 spectators, bigger than most football or American football stadiums. When it's packed, the stadium looks like an entire city wrapped around the field. Human skin is only about 1/10 of an inch thick, incredibly thin compared to other animals. A hippo's skin can measure up to 2.5 inches thick. And in large whales, the layer of blubber insulating them from the cold can run over a foot deep. That difference in thickness reflects exactly how much physical protection each species needs to survive daily life in its environment. NASA captured the sun's electromagnetic and plasma vibrations and converted them into sounds we can actually hear. The sun constantly vibrates like a giant bell, driven by the massive movement of hot gases and magnetic fields inside it. Inside London's Royal Botanic Gardens lives the loneliest plant on Earth. Encephalartos woodii is a prehistoric cycad that once dominated the planet back in the age of the dinosaurs. The sanctuary of Covadonga in Spain is built inside a cave, suspended over a waterfall on Mount Asiva. The chapel is literally carved into the rock. In advertising, that ice cream in the photo usually isn't real. Under studio lights, real ice cream melts in minutes. So food stylists swap it out for mashed potatoes mixed with food coloring instead. Astronauts who spend long stretches in space can't drive once they get back to Earth. They have to wait at least 21 days before getting behind the wheel. Microgravity weakens their muscles and throws off their balance, so they need time to readjust. Every year, millions of tons of sand from the Sahara Desert travel thousands of miles through the air, landing all the way in the Amazon rainforest. That dust carries phosphorus, a nutrient that acts as a natural fertilizer for Amazonian plants. In 1980, Louisiana's Lake Penieur literally vanished. Beneath its waters sat a salt mine that had been active since 1919. An oil drilling crew miscalculated their position and punched straight through the mine's ceiling. The water formed a massive whirlpool that swallowed the drilling platform, 11 barges, trucks, and trees. The Speyside Cooperage in Scotland is the country's largest barrel-making operation. Founded in 1947, it repairs and reconditions between 350 and 400 barrels every single day. That process matters because Scotch whiskey pulls a huge part of its flavor, color, and aroma straight from the wood it ages in. Artificial photosynthesis is a technology that mimics plants, converting sunlight into clean fuel using artificial leaves built with semiconductors and catalysts. It uses water and carbon dioxide to produce chemical energy like hydrogen or synthetic fuels. The roundest object ever made isn't a ball, it's a silicon sphere created by the Avogadro project, polished at Australia's Centre for Precision Optics to help redefine the kilogram. Its imperfections are so microscopic that if it were blown up to the size of Earth, the tallest mountain on it would stand just a few feet high. In Greece, they're installing harp-shaped structures that turn the breeze into soft melodies while generating power to light up the streets. These wind harps blend art, technology, and sustainability, using nothing but wind to produce harmonic sounds like a real instrument completely on their own. Lucas Robles, a 25-year-old from Chile, lives with Mobius syndrome, a rare neurological condition that causes facial paralysis and makes movements like smiling impossible. The syndrome affects speech, causes feeding problems in infants. Sedan Crater is the largest man-made crater in the Americas, measuring roughly 1,300 feet across and nearly 320 feet deep. It was created in 1962 when the United States detonated an underground nuclear bomb. During World War II, there was a truck called the Bedford R.L. Bobbin that carried a massive spool unrolling a kind of carpet as it drove forward, letting other vehicles roll off ships without sinking into the sand on the beaches. Two engineers went viral after hacking into an in-flight entertainment system mid-flight and using it to play video games. Instead of punishing them, the airline rewarded them with free flights for life for exposing the vulnerability and helping improve the cybersecurity of their entire fleet. MIT engineers created bionic plants that glow with their own light, using nanotechnology built directly into their leaves. The end goal: city trees that replace streetlights entirely, lighting up streets naturally and sustainably. The Oura Ring 4 is a smart titanium ring that tracks sleep, stress, activity, and recovery with medical-grade precision. It uses infrared sensors to measure heart rate, blood oxygen, temperature, and heart rate variability. Paraty, in Brazil's Rio de Janeiro state, is a colonial town deliberately designed to flood at high tide. Seawater flows through its cobblestone streets and naturally cleans them out. The streets tilt gently toward the center, letting the water flow through without ever pooling. Polar bears are such good thermal insulators that under a thermal camera, they barely register any visible heat at all. Their fur is so efficient that only their nose, eyes, and paws give away any trace of body temperature. The Belgian passport hides a secret tribute to its most famous comic book characters. Its pages carry hidden illustrations of Tintin, the Smurfs, Lucky Luke, and Spirou. Most of these details only show up under ultraviolet light, completely invisible under normal lighting. A quartz crystal disk developed by scientists can store 360 terabytes of data for billions of years. It's incredibly resistant to heat and the passage of time, built to preserve human knowledge long after our possible extinction. The red-lipped batfish of the Galapagos Islands has lips so intensely red they look freshly painted on. But those bright lips aren't about fashion. They're there to attract a mate in the deep ocean. Xenobots are the first living robots ever built, made from the stem cells of frog embryos. They're programmed to clean up microplastics or travel through arteries, clearing blockages. They can even gather loose cells and assemble them into copies of themselves, a completely unprecedented form of biological self-replication. In 2017, the company Aerones achieved something never seen before: the first skydive from a giant drone. The machine, capable of carrying up to 440 pounds, lifted the skydiver more than 1,000 feet before releasing him mid-flight. A concrete step toward a future where drones could transport us every day. The world's smallest robot is a tiny flying propeller controlled by a magnetic field. It does not need batteries, making it incredibly efficient. Its applications range from performing microsurgeries to exploring tiny spaces impossible to reach any other way. It is one of the most impressive advances in today's microtechnology. The Santiago Bernabéu Stadium has a retractable field that protects the grass during events. The most curious thing is that this ultra-modern system is inspired by something already used in the Roman Colosseum 2,000 years ago. In just a few hours, the stadium goes from being a soccer field to a concert venue. 21st century architecture, learning from ancient engineering. Kawasaki created the Orsabot, a robot horse that reproduces the real behavior of the animal. It walks, trots, and even gallops with impressive mechanical precision. It is used for biomechanics, studies, rehabilitation, and sports training. This is what happens when cutting-edge robotics mixes with the behavior of a real animal. Russ Cook completed no fewer than 387 marathons in just 352 days. He crossed all of Africa facing extreme heat, humidity, and nearly impassable terrain. His achievement allowed him to raise more than $1 million for charitable causes, proof that mental strength can lead to achievements that seem impossible. China is developing an army of 5,000 humanoid robots with advanced artificial intelligence. They not only learn from humans but also adapt to a huge variety of tasks. From industry to customer service and the medical sector, applications are already underway, a project that could accelerate the advancement of robotics worldwide. The Tinapod transforms your Apple Watch into something similar to a classic iPod, thanks to a special case. It even has a front wheel to navigate menus just like the original iPods. It is compatible with Apple Watch Series 4 and later, without modifying the watch itself. It combines today's technology with the nostalgia of a design that defined an entire generation. In Australia, hawks and kestrels use fire as a hunting tool. They pick up burning branches and drop them to deliberately start fires. The flames force prey to run out, and that's when the birds attack. It is one of the most astonishing animal behaviors ever documented, almost cinematic. The Truck Surf Hotel is exactly that. A truck converted into a hotel that travels through Portugal and Morocco. It has private rooms, a kitchen, and common areas designed for surfers constantly on the move. Guests chase the best waves without giving up any comfort. Extreme adventure and premium relaxation in the same vehicle right by the sea. In Bali, there is a luxury villa built inside a retired Boeing 737. It literally hangs on a cliff with spectacular views of the Indian Ocean. Total privacy, wild nature all around, and top-level facilities. A retired airplane turned into one of the most exclusive and unusual accommodations on the planet. Inca Kola was one of the few brands in the world capable of standing up to Coca-Cola in its own country. Its tropical fruit flavor and bright yellow color make it completely unique. In Peru, it is not just a drink, it is a cultural emblem and part of the national identity. Proof that an authentic product with local roots can beat global giants. Chess boxing combines mental and physical strength in the same sport. Participants alternate rounds of chess with rounds of boxing, one after another. You can win by checkmate or by knockout, either works. You need a cool head and physical endurance. It is one of the strangest sports in the world, and without a doubt, one of the most fascinating to watch. Did you know the King of Hearts is the only king in a deck of cards without a mustache? And it was not intentional design. The reason was a printing error in the 15th century with the first playing cards. That mistake kept getting copied over time until it became a distinctive detail. A small accident that ended up becoming tradition. Dr. Yellow is the only train in Japan designed exclusively to inspect bullet train tracks. It reaches 275 miles per hour while analyzing the infrastructure in real time. It does not carry passengers. Its only mission is to make sure the tracks are in perfect condition. It is the silent guardian of the fastest railway system in the world. In Gloucester, England, every year one of the most absurd and fun traditions in existence takes place: the cheese rolling race. Dozens of people throw themselves downhill, chasing a wheel of cheese rolling out of control. The first person to catch it at the bottom wins. Falls, stumbles, and endless laughter. A tradition as ridiculous as it is lovable. The Global Eurogol simulates passes, shots, and crosses with impressive precision. It is a device that helps soccer players improve their technique by recreating real match situations. Professional clubs in several countries use it to optimize player performance, an innovation that changed the way coaches work on the finest details. The International Space Station is the largest artificial object ever placed into orbit. It is the size of a football field. Astronauts live there while it travels at 17,500 miles per hour. It is an orbital laboratory where phenomena impossible to reproduce on Earth are studied. One of the most impressive and ambitious achievements in human history. Las Fallas in Valencia are a mix of art and madness. Enormous cardboard and wooden sculptures with satirical scenes about current events. They are built over months and then completely burned in a single night. All the artistic work disappears in minutes, turning destruction into the most anticipated moment. A UNESCO World Heritage celebration and one of the most spectacular festivals in the world. Wesley is the dog that became famous online for wearing braces. He suffered from a malocclusion that prevented him from chewing properly and caused weight loss. His veterinarian decided to put braces on him just like human ones to align his teeth. The treatment restored his appetite and gave him millions of fans on social media. In countries where heavy snow falls, there are trains designed specifically to clear the tracks. The most powerful can remove up to 3,850 tons of snow per hour with their enormous blades. Without them, rail transportation would come to a complete stop. True giant machines that keep the lives of millions of people moving during winter. The Shabara Resort in Saudi Arabia is one of the most extravagant hotels on the planet. Its rooms are metallic spheres that seem to float above turquoise waters with a totally futuristic appearance. It operates almost entirely on solar energy and can only be accessed through exclusive transportation, luxury, sustainability, and architecture taken to a level that feels from another planet. The Alaska Native Games are held every year in Anchorage to honor indigenous traditions. They include unique competitions like the seal hop, where participants move forward by hopping across the snow. The contests measure both physical condition and deep knowledge of ancestral customs, one of the most original and culturally rich sports festivals in existence. The not fried chicken ice cream is ice cream that looks exactly like a piece of fried chicken. Chef Cynthia Wong created it by combining ice cream, white chocolate, and cornflakes. Its appearance fools everyone, but the first bite reveals it is completely sweet. A brilliant example of culinary creativity that went viral within days. At the Louvre Museum, you can tour the galleries using a Nintendo 3DS as an official guide. You point the camera at an artwork and the console instantly shows historical facts and curiosities. A brilliant idea to connect with younger audiences and make classical art less boring. A natural way to fuse everyday technology with ancient culture. There are fireflies that synchronize their flashes to the same rhythm, creating a hypnotic spectacle deep in the jungle. This phenomenon occurs in Southeast Asia and in some parts of North America as a form of communication. It is believed to help attract mates or defend territory. Seeing thousands of lights blinking in unison is one of those moments when nature seems choreographed. In Guatemala, there is a cook who uses active lava to bake pizzas. Mario Garcia places his dough directly in front of the Pacaya volcano, where the extreme heat cooks the pizza in a unique way. The spectacle of baking with a volcano in the background became a must-see tourist attraction. extreme gastronomy, and wild nature in their purest form. The light we see from the moon is not its own. It is only reflected sunlight. And the most curious thing is that the moon reflects only between 3 and 12% of the light it receives. Despite that, its closeness to Earth makes it appear bright, especially during a full moon. An optical phenomenon that has fascinated poets and observers for centuries. Designer Paulfer imagined a stadium capable of holding 1 million people. His concept includes a circular structure with giant screens, rest areas, and intelligent exits designed down to the smallest detail. It even includes an automated transportation system inside the stadium itself, a fascinating project that raises real questions about logistics and safety in the architecture of the future. The TMC Dumont is a motorcycle that looks straight out of a science fiction movie. It carries a 1960s Rolls-Royce airplane engine with 300 horsepower. It won the prestigious Best of Show award at Daytona Bike Week, one of the most important motorcycle competitions in the world. Classic aviation and futuristic design combined into one machine. Space tourism stopped being a fantasy. Companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic already offer real suborbital flights. Passengers experience minutes of weightlessness and see the curve of Earth with their own eyes. Something that until recently was only for astronauts can now be purchased as an experience. The future of tourism is only beginning. The Sphere building in Las Vegas is a dome covered with 360-degree LED screens that look straight out of the future. From the outside, it can transform into a giant eye, a planet, or even a ball of fire. Inside, it works as a concert venue with three-dimensional sound and incredible resolution. It costs $2.3 billion and already hosts historic concerts. Samsung released an ad in 2017 called Astrid, where an athlete discovers flight through virtual reality. The piece was so powerful it won several Clio awards, including Gold for Best Short Film. It emotionally connected with millions of people around the world. Proof that advertising, when done well, can be as profound as a movie. In Olympic, synchronized diving, athletes make truly extreme facial expressions while airborne. It is not drama. It is the result of physical effort and absolute concentration during the dive. Every dive requires millimeter precision and perfect synchronization in less than a second. Those expressions are the image of total control right before hitting the water. In Tokyo, there is Sushi Singularity, a restaurant where sushi is printed in 3 dimensions and fully customized for each customer. Yes, you read that right. The customer must send biometric data like DNA, so the sushi matches their nutritional needs. It is the most extreme mix of high technology, health, and Japanese gastronomy. A culinary future made real. An engineer designed a parabolic basketball backboard where every shot, no matter how bad, always goes into the hoop. It uses physical principles of trajectory and angle so the balls always bounce toward the basket. It is only an experiment, but it demonstrates the power of physics applied to sports. A fun way to see how science can turn anyone into a basketball star. Down city candles hide a secret. As they burn, they reveal silhouettes of entire cities inside them. As the wax melts, complete urban skylines appear. An ordinary candle transforms into a small visual artwork. A surprising aesthetic experience you would never expect from something as common as a candle. Microsoft released such a strange Xbox controller that it became a cult object. The cheek controller inspired literally by Deadpool's backside. It could only be obtained through an exclusive social media giveaway, making it almost impossible to own. Its irreverent design instantly turned it into a collector's item. Humor, pop culture, and technology, all in one video game controller. Before clocks existed, people measured time using marked candles. The wax melted at a constant speed, and the engraved marks indicated the passing hours. It was the most widely used system throughout the Middle Ages, and although it seems primitive, it paved the way for the modern clocks we use today. The company Wolf House does something that seems impossible. It lifts entire houses off the ground and moves them somewhere else without taking them apart. They achieve it with specialized machinery that raises the whole structure like a single block. Structures, walls, and even plumbing remain intact during the entire move. Imagine waking up in the same bed but in a completely different neighborhood. In 1939, Pontiac introduced something never seen before: the ghost car, a vehicle with a completely transparent body made of plexiglass. From the outside, you could see the engine, the seats, and every mechanical component working. It was displayed at the New York World's Fair as a symbol of the most innovative design of the era, a historic piece that anticipated the idea of industrial transparency decades ahead of time. Poppy Day commemorates the soldiers who died in World War I. In 2014, exactly 888,246 ceramic poppies covered the Tower of London, one for every British soldier who died, each placed by hand by volunteers over several weeks. An incredibly powerful image that shows at real scale the true human cost of war. The Neuro R1 is an autonomous electric vehicle designed only for delivering groceries. It has no seats or steering wheel because no human drives it. Its 360-degree cameras and artificial intelligence allow it to deliver food and groceries across several cities in the United States, one of the clearest steps toward total automation of urban delivery. In Japan, the Moomin Cafe has a beautiful idea for people eating alone. They place a giant plush toy at your table so you do not eat in silence. You can hug it, take photos with it, or simply look at it. The idea works so well that it has already spread to several locations across the country. A simple, sweet, and very Japanese way to fight loneliness in a single meal. Designer Angela Luna created a jacket that transforms into a complete tent. It is made with water-resistant and wind-resistant materials and unfolds in seconds. It won international awards and was recognized by humanitarian organizations around the world. An idea that proves fashion can also be supportive and solve real problems. Yes, there is a Guinness World Record for continuously spitting water for 56.36 seconds. Maintaining a constant stream for almost a minute requires incredible technique and unusual breath control. The attempt was officially supervised by Guinness judges using running water. An absurd record, yes, but one that gets attention precisely because of how strange it is. There are mannequins with 9 movable joints capable of striking poses so realistic they look like actual people. And the most impressive thing, they change size automatically by pressing a single button. They allow designers to test clothes on different body types without needing multiple mannequins. Perfect for inclusive campaigns and testing prototypes before large-scale production. Tim Noble and Sue Webster create sculptures made from trash that, when illuminated from a specific angle, project shadows of perfectly recognizable human figures. The magic is in the light. What looks like a pile of garbage transforms into a fascinating artwork. Their pieces explore the relationship between what is discarded and what is valuable. The ordinary turned extraordinary just by changing the angle of the light. The American Express Centurion is the most exclusive credit card on the planet. It is made from titanium, has no spending limit, and can only be obtained through direct invitation from the company. Its holders gain access to a world of luxury services, personalized travel, and priority attention anywhere. The most recognized symbol of wealth and prestige in the financial world. The smallest cell phone in the world is made by Zanco and measures only a few inches. Despite its ridiculous size, it makes calls, sends messages, and even includes a built-in flashlight. It is available on Amazon and bought either as a curiosity or an emergency phone. Clear proof that sometimes the most impressive thing is not the size, but what the device can do. At the Terme Milano Spa, there is a room where water falls from the ceiling like a real storm. Soft thunder and lights that imitate lightning complete a fully immersive experience. The therapy creates a deep feeling of calm, as if you were standing under warm rain in a safe environment. A place designed to completely disconnect you from the outside world. The first motorcycle in the world was invented in 1885 by the German Gottlieb Daimler. It had wooden wheels and a primitive engine, but changed personal transportation forever. Although it was unstable and very noisy, it laid the foundation for every modern motorcycle. Today, millions ride around the world thanks to that first historic experiment. A Cheeto shaped like the gorilla Harambe sold online for $99,900. Some collectors saw it as a unique, one-of-a-kind object, worthy of being preserved forever. It went viral and opened an unexpected debate. What can become collectible in the digital age? Sometimes the most absurd things end up costing a completely surreal fortune. Recreating prehistoric food blends archaeology, biochemistry, and gastronomy to bring back flavors lost to time. Some projects extract yeast from thousand-year-old ceramic vessels to ferment ancient drinks. And that's a wrap. Smash that like, subscribe to Zarpado, and hit the bell. Share this with someone who loves learning. They'll thank you for it. See you in the next one.